Dear listeners and viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to your weekly meeting through your program Spectra. Art in general has always been the ultimate manifestation of human talents, human creativity, human greatness, but on the other hand, is always a manifestation and a depiction of human weaknesses and flaws. In the modern times, specifically towards the end of the 19th century, the art of cinema took over as the most efficient form of art that seeps through every pore and reaches everyone from east to west all over the world. What is the role of art in spreading, perpetuating positive or negative ideas at the same time? How can we spread the good and stop the bad? This is what we'll be discussing today. How can art fight all forms of discrimination, bigotry, stereotypes, and stigma? Tonight as well, I'm really delighted to be accompanied in the studio with Shelly Jarret, who is a woman of versatile talents. She is a publisher, a film producer, a speaker, and an activist, just to say a few. So, Shelly, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you for having me, Mohammed.
It's a real pleasure.
Yes.
So just like I said in the intro, you are a woman of versatile talent. So
Exactly.
I just made a very brief intro. So can you please take over and introduce yourself
Oh,
to
for
us?
sure. Thank you for that introduction.
My pleasure.
Again, my name is Shelly Jarret, and I'm an award-winning entrepreneur. I'm a magazine publisher. I'm also a documentary film producer, and a women's advocate. And my magazine is an image, lifestyle, and business publication. We talk about arts and entertainment, beauty and fashion, health and wellness, and faith and community. And we also talk about your image, how to perfect your image, how to dress for success in the workplace. And also we have a business component to our magazine, and we give small businesses in the community an opportunity to talk about their businesses and promote their businesses. So that's the magazine. And we are a diverse magazine. We look at ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Fantastic. So I wasn't blowing things out of proportion. I was just, doing you justice when I said, like, you work in a plethora of fields here and there.
Yes.
And so, of course, art
Mm-hmm.
is a great thing. Like
Yes.
it's like this thing that sort of penetrates like all kinds of barriers and reaches our hearts and
Yes.
whatnot. But as the same time when art spreads beauty and great values, sometimes as well it helps spread negative
Yes,
ones.
of course.
So like growing up, how do you see like the difference between arts when you were a little child and today?
Okay. Well, first of all, I never knew that I had these artistic abilities until years later, until I met my husband, actually, and, different experiences and so forth. But I was never in say like drawings and stuff like that. I was never good.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I'm more of a visionary. Even from a little girl, I could remember when I was like about 5 years old, somewhere around there. I would just blurt out the word business administration,
Mm-hmm.
like out of nowhere. And the funny thing is that over the years, post-secondary and everything, I've always been business minded.
Okay.
So, sometimes speaking things into existence does come to pass, even from early stages. And I had no idea, like I said, I had these abilities. But I was always business oriented, wanted to be creative, not even understanding what all that was about. But I stayed in that path.
You had it in you, like
I had it in
yeah.
me. It was just for me to like express it. And I never thought that I'll be doing what I'm doing now, but it was always there. So, and now that I found it, it's great. And I mean, finding your purpose is one of the most interesting and beautiful experience you would ever have. But sometimes it takes many years.
Like, you know, what kindled the first spark, if you'd like, or what always like rekindles you as a producer, or like as an artist in general?
Okay, so let me take you back a little bit. So I've finished post-secondary, university, everything like that, still not knowing that I'll be in the arts or anything to do with the arts. Like I said, it's always business, but always this caring personality, wanting to care people, love people, want to help people. So I fell into social work. I did social work. I got a degree in social work. But when I actually started in the field, I did not like it too much, to be honest. But from a different, more, I was much younger.
The start? Like, how was the start? Like, what, you know, like.
It's always this helping, wanting the urge.
I mean, like in the field of art, like who motivated you?
Oh, it would definitely be my husband. But to take it back a bit, I was never know much or never went to much plays or anything like that. But one day I was in the mall minding my own business, and somebody from a fashion school just scouted me. This is going to be the start of how I got into the arts. Just as, oh, you're beautiful. I would love to have you come in and you do some photo shoot, and maybe you're good at acting. But
wow,
my business degree and that really helped me. My sales experience really helped me, because when you get into the industry, you know, it's all about sales. To be honest, it's how you can sell yourself, how you can promote yourself. And so actually scouted me in the community. I didn't think it was serious, but I said, let me try it anyway. Just, I'm always have an open mind.
Yeah.
And I did go, and yeah, they signed me up. I filled the application. The guy, he looked at the application, my age, and he looked at me, and he looked at the application. He says, oh, we need you. I don't know, maybe I looked young or whatever. And so, yeah, they sent me. This is going back this is about, I would say about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And they hired me to do some work. And they took a full photo shoot. They did everything. They sent me to acting classes in Toronto. They paid for everything. And I thought, oh, I like this.
Wow. So like at this time, how was art like? If we talk about, like, you know, depiction of specific genders or races, or like how different were things at that time, or were they exactly the same as we have today?
No, I think things have changed a lot. For me, like I said, because what I did helped me to bring out what was inside of me. I never thought in the back of my head, this is what I wanted to do or anything like that. But because of my personality, that sort of helped me a lot. So when I got into acting, like I said, they sent me to acting school. I had an agent. I went. So that's when it started coming out slowly, like, oh, I can do this. I just need to learn some lines, and I can create something here, be somebody who I'm not. I can act. And that's when I started getting the bug a little bit, but I still didn't get the full. I didn't know if I want to do that or not, but it was fun at the time. But I liked the way how I expressed myself, and I was like becoming a new person. So.
Did you face any kind of like racial or gender based discrimination at all?
I don't think so. For there might have been, it might have been there. It's always there, but I would say not something that I could have a specific story to say this happened, that happened. It might have been I went on a few auditions and I didn't get it for whatever reason, but I can't prove that's what the reason why. But it's always discrimination is always there, racism is always there, but it's not something I spend a lot of time looking at, but we know it's there because we deal with it every day in different situations.
And how are like different races depicted through different movies at the time compared to today, and like again genders, how are they depicted at that time compared to today? Like what's the difference?
The difference is still, we have a long way to go for women to be in more movies. Like we just had the Oscars, and you can see it was all, they call it Oscar so white. Like there was one black woman in there being nominated, and it was for playing a slave. And so that is not so good. That in itself is kind of racism. Depending, different people may look at it different. Some people may say, "Oh, she got an opportunity to be nominated," but what was it a strong role? Does it tell the story of a black family or something that happened in the past? Like, so there's always still racism.
Yeah, like even
there.
in the older movies, you have people like Sammy Davis, like Sidney Poitier, like maybe Sidney Poitier was something really different at the time. For the first time, like.
And there were still some.
An African American would get a leading role.
Yes.
And not a comedian,
right?
As well. So it's not coming there for just for laughs. No,
right.
It's a serious role and having a leading role.
Yeah, those things are still there. It has not changed.
Yeah, and
not
then
much.
like you have the different generations later on. You start having like people like Denzel Washington, whatnot.
And, they got leading roles.
Exactly.
So, but it's still a long way to go. If anything, the black males are still ahead of black women, I would say.
So you think like like women of Afro-Caribbean origin are still facing double jeopardy? You think so? Like, so it's women, and because they're Afro-Caribbean as well.
There's still a lot of barriers.
Yeah, for both sides.
It's actually it's a fight. It's a challenge every day you wake up, but you try to put those things behind you and still stay focused, still, lend voice to the voiceless and do the best you can do every day. Not even think about, because if you really sit and think about discrimination and racism, you probably would be so discouraged that you don't want to do things. So you still fight your way through it, and you're making room for the next generation.
You just keep on going.
Keep on going.
Yeah, you don't want things to hold you back.
Yes.
But you said like, until today, women do not have enough roles or enough leading roles. They're not, as appreciated as men.
Right.
And again, like specifically, people with an Afro or Caribbean background.
Yes.
And so you think it's still like it was before, like getting a little bit better, but you think there's a long way?
It's a little bit better, but I see it more better in the US than here in Canada. We're still very lagging behind. The women in America would more get together, and because there's so many more challenges there as well. They face a lot more discrimination, and it's right in your face. So these stories, women can actually get together, and investors can get together and say, we're going to tell these stories about what's really happening in our communities. And I'm always very inspired by what they're doing in the US, but for some reason here in Canada, we're just still behind.
So I think for every action, there's a reaction. So like, because there's like in the US, there might be a lot of pressure. So the more pressure you exert, like it might like, fire back,
force them to do something about it. So they're taking things in their own hands, making their own stories and I'm quite inspired by that.
And do you think, again, like when we say that women in Canada are not getting their full rights as much as they're getting it in the U.S., still in the U.S. they're not getting their full rights, but at least they're
doing
trying.
trying.
At least they're in the right
Mm-hmm.
track. Whose fault is it? Like, is it because
Society.
we're living in, and again, society
Yes.
is made of men and women.
And the men that have the money that won't put it towards.
But you would never blame women as well for like, having this inferior role. Do you think women support each other enough?
They don't. I know I can only speak for like the Caribbean community. I don't. I think the women in the U.S. Support each other very much, a lot more than the Caribbean, West Indian women here in Toronto. It's like everybody's just like doing their own thing, and that's one of my pet peeves. It just drives me. Why can't we just get together and get this thing going? Because we got so much history here, so many stories to be told, but nobody helps. You're just really on your own, and it's bothersome. It's one of the barriers we have to really,
because
try to
in
break.
Canada, like, women have a lot of leading roles, and like this month in specific, this is the Black History, Black Heritage Month. So it is recognized officially, if you'd like to say, but you don't think, like, when we come to the real world, this is really implemented?
Well, what I'm seeing now, which I'm happy for, like, for example, the Toronto Black Film Festival started today.
Yeah.
And one of the things I see them doing, which I'm very proud of, young people, Black people, women and men, opportunities to tell their stories. I think they have a whole section. I think big part of the festival this year is these young filmmakers, and that's really impressive. But again, there's still a lot more needs to be done. They don't even have a lot of Black film festivals, to be honest. Only that one. There's a Caribbean Tales. There another one. That's the only two that I know.
So
specifically Black films.
Do you think it's better to have such as, like, sort of stratified film industry and, again, recognition film festivals? So let's say we'll have a Caribbean film festival and whatnot, or is it just better to have everybody recognized according to their merit, regardless of their background, in all festivals?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. For me, I'm a people's person. I love all people. I'm not specific in anything, but again, I identify Black and I identify female and a woman. So I would like to be in a Black film festival. So I'd be everywhere. I'm also women. Some of the stories women connect. Doesn't matter which country they're from. So I'm very diverse in my thinking.
The rebuttal of this, or the counter argument, is that some people say it is the women's fault and the Black community's fault that they recognize themselves as Black and as women. Like, why don't you just look at yourself as a human? Wow. And so, like, it might be coming actually from you and not from others. So why don't you just consider yourself, I'm a human with full human rights, just like everybody else. I'll mix and mingle with everyone, and I'll demand my rights as a human, regardless of my background.
Yeah. Well, I think we're more similar than different.
Absolutely, yeah.
But culturally, that's what, pull us into different directions because of the culture. But at the end of the day, we're all one people, right? The human race, and we face some of the same challenges. But I think for Black people, the challenges could be a little more because of slavery and all this dark history from before. So those things like continues. It doesn't change. You still have to be working towards it to make some changes, but those things are still there.
Unfortunately, racism is still with us here. So just on this note, let's take a short break, and we'll be back again to continue our talk about racism and much more. Don't go away.
One human race. If you see me walking down a dangerous road, Would you stop me and say, sister, you're going the wrong way? Or if you see me carry a heavy load, would you stop and say, sister, I'll help you along your way? You are my brother, I may not know where you're from. You are my sister, I don't care where you're from. There's only one race, and that's the human race. White man, black man, whatever, one human race. Why would you leave me with a heavy load? Leave me on a dangerous road just because my color is not the same like yours. Why would you leave me with a heavy load? Leave me on a dangerous road just because my country is not the same like yours. You are my brother, I may not know where you're from. You are my sister, I don't care where you're from. There's only one race, and that's the human race. White man, black man, whatever, one human race. Why would you leave me with a heavy load? Leave me on a dangerous road just because my color is not the same like yours. Why would you leave me with a heavy load? Leave me on a dangerous road just because my country is not the same like yours. But you are my brother.
Well, it's one human race indeed, absolutely. And so before the break, we were talking about, you said that although they're talking about racism and discrimination, but they're not talking about it enough, they're not tackling it enough. So what topics do you think are missing? Like you as a producer, as a publisher, as a speaker, as a women's rights advocate, like what kind of topics would you like to see in movies that would talk about like discrimination? What kind of topics do you think will touch people's hearts and really get to the core of the problem?
I think a lot of the I like to deal with social justice issues because I think a lot of the problems stem from these things: poverty. Why is one group of people better off than other? Why would people that are better think they're better off treat people that they think is not so better off in these manners? Like, I would like to see movies about the real issues that's happening in the community, in our communities.
Okay.
I like to see things on domestic violence, stop to domestic violence and gender-based violence, and those are some of the issues that I like to see changes.
So you'll talk about social justice in general. Like you don't want to focus on a specific gender or race. Like you think it should be tackled at the grassroots.
Yes. Most of our problems is grassroots. And the thing is, nobody wants to deal with these issues, because they're dark.
Very controversial.
Very controversial.
Everybody would like to play it safe.
Yes, but that's not reality.
Yeah.
Reality is the hard stuff because it's there. It happens.
And a lot of people say I don't want to put my head into the lion's den, like racism and discrimination and things like that. These are very controversial
issues, yes.
And like what scares people the most, you think, as a producer of a movie? Is it like, profit? Like if I produce a film about discrimination, or like one of the very popular, for example, TV series that like back in the 1970s was Roots.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Oh, boy. I
Roots
remember seeing
was a
that.
very, very popular one.
Yes.
And, you know, we have Kunta Kinte, who was later on called Toby. Like he was a lead character, and we see it across the different generations and whatnot. And it was still very popular. So
And it's very painful too.
it was definitely.
Yes.
Like, you know, some of the scenes, of course, were like, they were really hard to watch, but they really touched everybody's heart. You know, the moment they took him from West Africa, and you know, like as they sailed across the Atlantic,
And all the beatings.
exactly, and then like when they started beating him to change his name from Kunta Kinte to Toby.
Toby.
And all these things.
Yeah.
It was a very painful thing to see, but it was very popular too. So tell you, no, I don't want to produce these things because they might not be popular. I will not make a profit. Do you think that's really true, or that's just like a hangnail? You know, people are just making something up.
Well, I think people don't want to deal with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And because again, I said, like, it's very painful, it's embarrassing, and for one race to be going through all that, another race may feel bad about it. So
Yeah.
a lot of people probably won't want to produce something like that now. And even now we have a lot more issues to deal with that's more, you know, forthcoming, that people would like to tackle some of these, like, you know, different gender relationships, same-sex marriages, and different things like that. That's more common. People would probably more want to see something like that, because a lot of the new generation now, or what's happening now, they want to know these alternative lifestyles and things like that, how people are coping, different things like that.
So do you think like racial discrimination is being put on the back burner now? Like it's being put aside, and people are mostly interested in like gender related issues and like, you know, LGBTQ related.
Yeah, because these are new
topics.
issues and new topics, things that are coming up that people have a lot of interest in. But I don't think they're putting it aside. They just don't want to deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't want to. It's just like it's gonna bring up so many things, but it should be dealt with. Because then, you know, we have our kids coming up in school. A lot of, from what I understand, they don't teach much Black history in schools, and I think they should, because then,
like, this month is the Black History Month. It's being tackled, but do you think, again, like, a lot of people are just sticking their head in the sand, like pretending that it's just not there? Would you like to see a big production about someone like, for instance, Oscar Peterson, someone like Marianne Chad, like a big production, modern production about such people?
You mean a film or a stage?
A film or
theater?
stage. Something, yes.
That would be nice. That would be nice for Black history. That would be nice. But like we talked about, who wants to put their money there?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there again, I could say that's a form of discrimination, but that's just, everybody would look at it from a different point of view, right?
Yeah, because, you know, like people.
But I think the city, that's something like the city of Mississauga could take some interest in, because the city could do a lot more. And one of the things that annoys me, to be honest, every Black history, I don't see much happening in Mississauga. I've been living in Mississauga over 30 years.
Okay.
And for Black history, I really don't see anything. And I don't know why.
So it's just a title, but nothing is happening.
Nothing
really
happens. I don't want to put city against city, but I see a lot more happening in the Brampton community. Okay. Well, only recently. I didn't see that before, but I would say in the past 3-4 years.
So I think demographics play. Do you think demographics play a major role again in, like, you know, caring about these ideas? So if there's a bigger Afro-Caribbean community in a specific city. Yeah, they would tackle this topic.
Yeah, but I think everybody's like trying to do something, but I think more needs to be done.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, because a lot of these stories are like really inspiring, like regardless of them being of African origin.
Right.
Like if you look at the stories of someone like Mary Ann Shadd, for instance,
yes.
you know, she came from like very, very humble beginnings.
Yes.
And like she reached the peak of success.
Yes, exactly.
In all different fields.
And like that Viola Desmond.
Exactly.
Challenges that she had and she was able to overcome.
All those women specifically,
yes,
like,
women.
you know.
Yes, it's a lot.
And great artists, great, like, you know, like Oscar Peterson.
Yes, needs to be showcased.
Like this great musician, this great, not only in jazz, but like in all sorts of, like, you know.
And he made a lot of contribution to the community.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
yeah, that's something that I need to see something being done there. And that's like something Mississauga can do, like the city of Mississauga. So it really needs to be more. Sometimes it's all about funding and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, all the politics. So.
And we talked about the role of women as actors and actresses, and you think that they're not getting what they really deserve here. You think there are a lot of talents out there, but they're not recognized as male talents.
Right, I would agree, yes.
All over the world. But how about the world behind camera? Like, you're a producer, so you're not like you've acted before, but
a little bit.
Yeah. But again,
but I think I'm better served behind the camera. I like.
There you go. Yeah,
I like to tell stories, and I'm more of a visionary. I can see stories and decide that this is what story I want to tell. Yeah.
So how about the role of women behind cameras?
Oh, that's awesome. Very powerful.
So you think women have a better role, like, or a better chance behind camera than in front of camera, or is it the other way around?
I would say it's even, because we all have special skills. We just need to display them. We just need opportunities to be able to show what we can do, because we're all born creative.
Definitely,
it's in us, but we just need these opportunities, like, you know, and a lot of it comes down to funding.
But, you know, a lot of people would argue that behind camera, women might have a much minor role. Like, there have been many articles out there, people saying that women are still dealt with as models.
Right.
Just like a pretty figure. She's just a pretty figure.
That's not true.
And people are not very much interested in what she has within. So that's why you find like an equal number of singers, like male, female singers, they're almost equal. Almost an equal number of male and female actors and actresses.
But in film it's different.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you come to talk about directors, you know, like a camera, it's usually like it's a cameraman, not a camera person.
Right. It should be person.
Exactly. It's usually a cameraman.
Yeah, because I think as a woman, if you show her what to do, most definitely, and she loves what she does, she's going to do it.
Editors, screenplay, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Again, like composing music.
Right.
It's usually the composer is a man.
Yeah.
Person like the poets, the people who write the lyrics, and it's usually a man again. So
I think it's because they haven't been given these opportunities, but they should be encouraged to be behind the camera and, you know, tell stories. Yeah.
So when you work in like, because you're working in different fields simultaneously, so you're doing production, you're doing publishing, you're a speaker as well. Were you ever treated with any form of it might be a harsh word, but sometimes this is what people face, with any form of disdain or disrespect for what's within you just because you're a woman? Do you think like people would care more about like the facade more than what's within a woman?
Well, what I would say on that is that I'm very new to the industry. And so I haven't like face that as yet. And this documentary that I just produced is like our own documentary that is all out of pocket. We did everything, so we had a little more control.
Mhm.
And still have control for distribution. So I would say, you talk to me maybe in another year or two, I might have some
Yeah.
answers for you. But this we're just getting involved in
But
the
I mean,
film
like in your
industry.
other
But I've,
fields, like, you know,
oh,
in,
speaking engagements
yeah,
and so forth.
exactly.
Yeah, sure. I've missed a few things that I could have been on that I wondered, well, why wasn't I there? But it's all
Mhm.
a competition, I would think, and friends and
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
But you don't think like people sort of like ignored or omitted, like, you know, your name just because you are a woman or of a specific
No, I
racial
think it's an
background.
evil playing field. I don't think.
Mhm.
I think as women we still have a long way to go, but I think if we pull together all as women, we can do it.
Pulling
But that's,
together.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
think that's where things get. Thing we're not as together as we should be,
Mhm.
and so help one help the other and that kind of stuff. We're not quite there yet. As much as we as women do so many things for women, so many women, there's still a lot more things to be done. Yeah,
Okay, and
and more together.
so what is your prescription if we say that you want to give like lit? What are your instructions for women? What things like 1, 2, 3, 4? What things should women start doing
I think we should
to
be
get them?
feel more empowered, that don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, because yes, you can do it.
Mhm.
Just give it a try. Don't be shy, and you'll be surprised how good. Because like I said, if somebody told me, oh, you cannot be a filmmaker, I don't accept that, because I'm coming from no experience, just life experience.
Mhm, mhm.
Just life experience. And yes, my God, the Almighty God, the inspiration that He gave me. But when I did this documentary, it's all by experience. For me, I stay in my lane, what I'm good at, and improve in what I'm good at. I know I'm effective behind the camera. I know I'm effective listening.
Mhm.
Those skills, you enhance those skills, and you gather the professionals around you and make it happen.
Uh,
That's
You said
my,
like I'll stay in my lane, so you'll not
yes.
have people like divert you or deviate you. Like, you know,
No.
you'll just stay in your lane,
Yeah,
no
and
matter what
improve
people
what
do.
it is that you do best. Like I don't edit,
Hmm.
but somebody that loves editing, love the computer, stay in that lane. That's what you do. That's what you're gonna shine in
And you're like
and
the
work
team
together
that
as a team.
the team that works with you. Are they like mostly women, or are they like?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
And I just throw my husband in there.
Because, you
Kind
know, as
of.
they say,
But
charity always starts at home.
yeah.
So
But
yeah,
it depends on, to get the job done, you need to get the most qualified person. And that's why I work with women, because I want them to be encouraged. Look at me, if I can do it, you can do it as well. So we still have a little ways to go, but we can do it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am not partial either way. I just look for the best people who can do the job. But
Regardless,
I would love
of,
to see women really doing it, just so that you can show that yes, you are just as good as a man.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and I think that's fair, really. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and let's go to another break,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
we'll be back soon. Don't go away. What is a woman? Can you tell me today? Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her her desperate pleas are always in vain. What is a woman? Can you tell me today? Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her desperate pleas are always in vain. What is a woman? Always has to strive to hardly feel alive. Dragon never gets to ever drive, working as a bee in a hive. Her mind is worthless, she's a pleasure toy. She's a hunting prey for men to decoy. Always second to every man and boy, must always be bashful, shy and coy. When she wants to express, she's always shut. Can't ask why, how, when, or what. She can say no, although if yes or but. She's the source of shame that must be cut. And what is a woman? Can you tell me today? Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her desperate pleas are always in vain. What is a woman? Can you tell me today? Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her desperate pleas are always in vain. What is a woman? If you really want to know, ask your heart and it will show. What is a woman? She's the mother who gave you life, maiden friend, not simply a wife. In a world where violence is so rife, she's the elixir to end all strife. The tender smile, the gentle hands to hold, the warm hugs when you are afraid or cold. First teacher who set your mind's mold, child's cradle, she's the cane for the old. She's the super mind that can always multitask, has the intuition to know even before you ask. She's an inspiration, not a mere beauty mask, the pride of humanity, our sanity's cask. And what is a woman? Can you tell me today? Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her desperate pleas are always in vain. What Why does a woman have to always pay? Treated with disdain, enduring all the pain, while her desperate pleas are always in vain. What is a woman? Oh, what is a woman? And
Wow.
we're back.
I like those lyrics.
Thank you very much. It's
Interesting.
it was like it's actually in this song I tried like I wouldn't you know, I usually am not very good talking about myself, but in this song I tried to put, like, you know, all kinds of passion that I had about the woman, really, like and really, like, you know, writing the lyrics and singing the song. I was really touched doing it, really, because I was writing and singing my mind, really, during that, because I feel women are subject to a great amount of discrimination, an incredible amount of discrimination, and there should be a lot to be done about it. And you have your first film now.
Yes, yes. It's an award-winning documentary.
Fantastic.
Very
And
pleased.
it won like some international prizes even.
Yeah, international awards. Best screenplay, and we were nominated for best trailer and best movie poster.
Fantastic.
Very happy, yes.
So can you shed some light on this movie?
Okay. Well, the documentary is stemming from our magazines after after the Me Too broke in 2017. It went viral, of course, and I thought, oh, I've never heard of this Me Too before.
So the Me Too was the group of women talking about, like, them being subject to sexual assaults. And
yeah, well, it was one woman. Her name is Tarana Burke. She started the movement many years ago.
Yeah,
and nobody paid attention to her because it was about black women and brown girls and black girls and brown girls were having some problems in that area, and they would disclose to her what was happening to them.
Yeah.
So she started the grassroots. So nothing happened, and one day after this Weinstein thing happened, one actress tweeted about this Me Too and the sexual assault, and that's when it really got some legs.
It happened to me too.
It happened to me too, and then she
idea,
asked, you know, some women to, you know, comment on it, and all these women started, and that's how it went viral. And I thought, and then here comes the Golden Globes, and Oprah Winfrey have her famous speech about this Me Too, and I thought, what is this? Because I have never heard of it. And so yeah, and that's how it started. So I said to one of our writers for a magazine, I would like you to the editor of the magazine said, go and find 5 women in the GTA that had similar experiences. But I don't just want sexual assault. I want all forms of violence against women. And I want a diverse group of women. I don't want one specific color. And she did a marvelous job. She went and she got some women. So when I saw the stories in the magazine, I thought, oh my gosh, this needs to be told on the big screen. It sort of brought me right back to when I worked in the social work field, because I had left that field for 20 years. I went into financial service for 20 years, but I've always worked with women, but not in that area. So more from, I worked with women from esteem, building self-esteem, inspirational things like makeup and fancy stuff. Because remember I said nobody wants to deal with this dark stuff.
The controversial.
And so when I saw the article, I felt a sense of obligation. Having a media platform, I felt a sense of obligation. I needed to do something, and that's how come I got back into my advocacy work and so forth. And so we made the film. It took us 11 months. So let me back up a bit. So I approached these women and from the story, and I said, I'm very touched by your story. Would you like to tell the story on the screen? I said, being in the magazine, maybe not many people would see, but on the big screen, a lot more people would see, and you're all survivors, and you want to really help some women out there tell their stories.
And were they from all different walks of life?
Oh, they were from the five major cultural backgrounds.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Do you mind mentioning them? Like, like the cultural backgrounds?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we have 2 South Asian women. We have 2 Black women. We have 1 Filipino, 1 Italian.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And 2 indigenous.
Oh, wow.
Of course.
Wow.
Yes. So we got the 5. We just got lucky. And so they were willing to tell their stories on screen. And so that's how, and actually those were from the magazine. There were 4 women, and we cast another 4 women. We did a full
So 8.
casting call.
Yeah.
And we got 4 other women. And so we got 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took us 11 months to make the documentary, 3 days of filming. And we went into their homes because this is where they're most comfortable to get the full story.
Yeah.
And so we got our director. It's a complete diverse cast. Our director, she is Filipino, of Filipino origin. And and she's from the LA area, but she's here in Canada.
So were these women subject to domestic violence?
All forms. We have
like violence
child
at work, or like,
yes.
Yeah.
We have child molestation,
Mm-hmm.
2 child molestation. We have domestic violence. We have workplace harassment in corporate Canada. We have.
So when you talk about child molestation, it happened to them or to their children?
No, to them. We're
They were
younger. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and then we have domestic, and then we have sexual assault, of course. And yeah, all forms of violence.
All forms of violence,
yeah.
and again, like at work as well.
Yeah, more harassment.
Harassment and
Work.
abuse.
Yes, mental stress. One of the ladies talked of her experience. She was very good in IT, and the same in what we were talking about, the discrimination. She, a female, good at IT, but her boss would always put her down, and things like that, and she cried at work. She's looking
at her more like a
lot of psychological problems she had from this harassment. She found it to be harassment. Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is like, you went really to the core of
oh, yes, it's it's heavy. These are, and I would say a lot of the women are, I would say some of them are healed, not all of them. I don't feel all of them are healed. They're still dealing with it. But the main reason for telling the story was to help other women, help the voiceless, the ones that have been killed, not able to tell their stories, the ones who are now going into relationships, and what are some of the warning signs you need to look for, and the ones that are in such situation. You do not need to stay in this situation. I can't tell you to leave your spouse, but I can provide you with the resources that you can help yourself. When you feel empowered enough to leave, you leave. But I can't tell somebody to leave. I can give you information and tell you, well, what this person is doing to you is not right.
So you think like the economic factor was a major one for them to endure and accept this treatment?
Well,
or like,
is it like complicated? Some of it like cultural, social, abuse of power. One lady or stepfather, I think, sexually assaulted her. Different situations.
Why
different
don't
situations.
a lot of women speak up? Like, statistics usually say that the majority of women who faced like this kind of assault don't really speak up, don't mention it. Why don't they do that in your opinion? Like, is it like afraid of being labeled, a stigma, like what?
All the above, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And fear is a big factor, and especially if she has kids, where am I going with the kids? You got to take the kids out of school. It's a lot going on, and so embarrassed, yes. And through this, they get depressed. There's a lot of depression, anxiety. There's a lot of health issues. There's just a lot going on. So a woman needs to process all this information and decide what she wants to do.
Of course, yeah.
And what the film is more, it's plot driven. This is could be any woman this can happen to, and this information is just to help another woman out there to start telling your story.
Perfect.
Tell somebody,
Yeah.
tell your next door neighbor, or if you have young kids, educate them in the sense that nobody should be touching you inappropriately. If somebody touches you inappropriately, you need to tell somebody. That kind of thing. The film is more awareness and education. Like it's a big problem.
And how can people watch the film? Like I'm sure a lot of people are curious now. Like,
yeah.
How and when and like, and
Well,
where?
we screened it last year in Toronto, where it's more of they can contact me, and I can do we do private screening. Of course, like I said, we'll be in Carleton University for International Women's Day. I'm very happy about that, and we're working with some other colleges and universities to get it into the university. So for now, because it's a social justice.
So the best way to contact you would be like...
Oh, you can contact me via social media, of course, my website, www.smjmag.com, or you can always send me an email, shellenhouseoffilms@gmail.com.
So do you want to write it
Yes,
down?
yes, Shellen,
and I can show it to people on camera.
SHELLAND, House of Films at gmail.com. Send me an email, and I'm on all social media platforms, Shelly Jarret. And
so everybody's Shellen, so it's SHELLAND, house, HOUSE, of film, FILM @gmail.com.
Shellen House of Films.
Yeah,
it's an S. I missed.
Yes, Shellen House of Films. So it should be Shellen House of
Films at gmail.com.
Yeah, Shelland, so Shell, SHELLAND, HOUSEOFFILMS @gmail.com. Shelland House of Films @gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you're interested in watching.
Just interested in seeing the film. If you have a group, I say minimum group of 50 or any women's group. And contact me and we'll
because these are real life stories, and like you said, unfortunately, discrimination against women is still there.
Yes.
Big time. Maybe like it's becoming more like, discreet, but it is there. It is there. And there's a lot of domestic violence. Women are being deprived of their rights.
Yes.
Treated as puppets, as pretty models only, like people are not very much interested with what's within.
Right.
So definitely, I think people will be very eager to watch that movie.
Yeah, it's a very powerful movie.
And definitely we'll have the pleasure of, letting people know whenever you would inform us if you have a special showing.
Oh yes, I've screened it in Brampton, in the Brampton area, but I haven't had the opportunity as yet to screen it here in Mississauga. So I'll be more than happy to screen it here in Mississauga, so people can see it. So,
absolutely. Believe it or not, we're at the end of the program. It's been a real pleasure having you, Shelly.
Yes,
and we went so deep into a major plague that hurt society until today. All forms of discrimination, all forms of racism. We have to come to an end, but really people have to speak out.
Oh, yes.
And people have to stand up, and stand up tall.
Yes.
You should be proud of yourself, sure of yourself, regardless of what people tell you.
Yes.
And I'll borrow Shelley's, sentence here. And he said, "I'll stay in my lane." So you're just stay in your lane, in your track. Keep going. Keep taking always take the extra mile. Always keep running. Don't let anybody deviate you at all. Don't let anybody divert you. Just keep carrying on. It needs a lot of stamina, but
Yes.
you can do it.
Of course.
When there's a will, there's a way. You can do it. Believe in yourself as a woman. Believe in yourself as an Afro-Caribbean. Believe in yourself no matter what.
Yes, and it's always important to mentor other younger ladies and girls so that they have something to look forward to and look up to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Shelly Jarret, it was a great pleasure having you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
And real looking forward to having you again here.
Yes, I'll be more than happy to come back.
Definitely. And looking forward to
Yeah.
more productions, more great films like this one.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for being with us. Dear listeners and viewers, it was a pleasure as usual, being your guests. You're the owners of the home. So until we meet again coming Thursday. So next week we'll be back to our usual time. So we'll be back on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Local time in both Toronto and Michigan. And again, for our Arabic viewers or Arabic speakers, don't forget our meeting this coming Monday at 7 p.m. Until we meet again, all the best and take good care.